The Blokebusters podcast is proud to be a member of the Podbros Network. You can find us, as well as other fantastic podcasts such as Pencil and Ink Review, Another Damn Trivia Show, and The Language of Bromance at podbros.com, as well as on most other fine podcasting services. Now sit back, relax, and prepare to share and enjoy the Blokebusters podcast.
Tonight's story is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction.
Who's got off? Today we are canceling the apocalypse! Excellent!
Houston, we have a problem.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Get away from her, you bitch!
And like that, he's gone.
Welcome to another episode of Film for Thought, our experiment in
Randomness, I believe.
Randomness.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. It's been a little while since we've done one of these guys. I'm Brian.
And I'm Paul.
And today we will be tackling film adaptations from any medium you can imagine, be it book, TV, graphic novel, cocktail napkin, whatever. Good, bad, ugly, the meh, whatever. It's all going to be in here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Maybe one or two TV adaptations as well. Just throw in at the end, just to briefly mention, just so people aren't going, well, it's all well and good you talking about film, but what about this really good adaptation?
Well, we are.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll throw it in at the end.
All right. So this was your brainchild, I believe.
Yes, it was.
So
yeah.
I think it's only fair that you lead us off here.
All right. Well, I will.
Oh yes, housekeeping.
Yes. Housekeeping here. It is. You can follow us on Twitter at Blokebusters, facebook.com/Blokebusters. You can email us blokebusterpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Instagram at Blokebusters, and we have our lovely little website, blokebusters.webs.com, which as of recording is mostly up to date. I realized today, which I tend to do, is when we're actually recording the podcast is when I go and double check, and that's when I realize, shit, I forgot something. I did forget to put up the latest episode that we did, which as of recording this is my brother's film spotlight. So
yes,
yeah, so that is not on
good
there.
times.
Yes,
Go listen to that one, folks. Fun.
Yes, yes, fun for all the family.
And me.
Yes. But yes, the reason that I was thinking about this one was I saw the trailer for Ready Player One a while ago, and I'd heard about this book, and I thought, you know what, I kind of want to read this one. It sounds like it might be fun. Like, yeah, it'll be good to read and then see the film eventually when that comes out. And I read the book, and then I went back and rewatched the trailer, and I realized that not only is it going to be a bit of an epic film if they actually manage to do a good adaptation, but also the trailer doesn't give away anything. So that I was actually kind of surprised by that, and that made me think about this whole film adaptations or just adaptations in general. And I figured it would be interesting for us to talk about now. So
So here we are, and I was in agreement, and that was about all there was to it.
So yes, I don't know. Do you want to do sort of good first, bad after, or do you want to just kind of just run with it randomly, see how it goes? So what do you think?
I'd say we kind of start off randomly. Like I was telling you before we started, I have way more on my bad adaptations. I mean, I know that kind of seems obvious. It's easier to make a shitty adaptation than a good one. But there it is. I have probably 2-to-1 on the bad.
Okay.
Maybe not quite that big of a ratio, but close. So I'm good with toggling back and forth, or let's just see how it goes. What was kind of the first one that really popped into your brain, albeit good or bad?
Well, I actually have, it's both a good and a bad one, technically.
I don't understand. Please elaborate.
I, as I think anyone listening to this will know at this point, unless you're a new listener, in which case, hi.
Hello.
Good night of you to join us. Yes, I am a big fan of anime. It's one of those things that I thoroughly enjoy, and I'm also a fan of manga. And Ghost in the Shell, for me, is one of my sort of pivotal anime. I think it's the first one I ever watched when I actively was trying to watch an anime. And I seeked it out, I watched it, and I was hooked from the beginning. So the 1995 Ghost in the Shell film is one of my favorite adaptations of all time.
Okay. Well, okay. See, I see what you're saying. It's too different, but yes, gotcha.
Yes, and then last week...
And then last week happened, yeah.
Yes, I had to watch... I mean, I was sort of planning on watching it anyway, because I figured I would eventually see it, the 2017 Ghost in the Shell film starring Scarlett Johansson. I watched it because, as of the time of this recording, it's not out, but by the time this episode is out, it will be out. I was on the Soiled Western Cinema.
Go check it out. Fantastic podcast, folks.
Yes, and without giving too much away, I didn't like it. It was a bad adaptation.
Let me tell you, we will not be reviewing this film. I had the, I won't say pleasure, but I had the pleasure of watching about 20 to 25 minutes of this, and that was more than enough. I never need to see any more of it.
Yeah, for anyone that is a fan of the franchise, just please don't watch the 2017. It's actually painful.
From what I saw, was just utter incoherent nonsense. Is that pretty much sum it up? I don't know what you're supposed to follow, why you're supposed to give a shit about anyone.
Yeah, they basically took elements from the 1995 film, the second Ghost in the Shell TV series, and a couple of things here and there from across the entire franchise, put it into a blender, took out the interesting bits, replaced a few things, and then put it on screen. So
right.
Yeah, it was like I was trying to write notes as I was watching it, and I was just starting to write in all caps because there were so many problems with that thing.
But I will give a shout out to our Game of Thrones people. Euron Greyjoy is in this, so do enjoy seeing Euron in a little different character this season.
Yeah, myself not being a Game of Thrones fan, I believe he is Butto.
Don't ask me the name, but I just know he's in it.
He's the guy that had white hair.
Yes, correct.
Okay, yes.
That's right. Yes. Okay,
he was the character of Butto in that.
All right.
I mean, I guess I had the least problem with his portrayal of the character. I just had problems with what they did with the characters. So there's that.
All right, let's move on, shall we?
Yes, I think we should move from this before I go into my long rants.
All right. I want to start with one of my best, and this is going completely in another direction, I guess, than Ghost in the Shell. This would be 1962's To Kill a Mockingbird. Directed by Robert Mulligan, based on the novel by Harper Lee, of course. This, to me, I mean, it's one of the, if you have like required reading in school, it's one of the first books you read when you're able to handle that level of reading, usually, 12, 13, 14, somewhere around that age. Yeah. It's a book everyone should read, and it's a movie everyone should see. It's perfectly cast with Gregory Peck. I don't want to hear this Ghost at a Watchman business about how Atticus turned into... Nope, I don't want to hear any of that bullshit. This movie is a perfect adaptation. You get, that the compassion and the tolerance is just incredibly important subject matter. It's timeless. I just love everything about the book and this movie. Endlessly watchable. It does not age. Who gives a shit? It's black and white. Just watch it. Read it. There's no bad things to say about this. End of story.
Yeah,
End of point. Your turn.
I will say it has been way too long since I've seen it, so unfortunately I cannot really comment too much about this. But yeah, from what I recall, like, very well acted, of like just a really good story. And having not read the book, I don't know personally, but from people I know who have read the book and have seen the film, that, like you say, a very good adaptation from book to screen. So
yeah, and the start of Bobby Duvall's acting career as Boo. So
yes.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, I have another one that actually just popped into my head, and is something that I'm surprised I didn't think of, because I feel like it's one of the two ways that you have to go about an adaptation. Because you have an adaptation as in you take what's written on the page and, as true as humanly possible, shove it on the screen. And then you have an adaptation where you take what's written, take what I would say the essence of it, and then you make that into the film. So yeah, it might be slightly different, but it's very clearly that source material. And I would actually say The Little Prince that we reviewed.
Okay.
Both that and The Martian, those two things together were like some of the best adaptation I've
Son of
ever
a
seen
bitch. Why didn't I not think of The Martian? I read that goddamn book.
I know. So did I. I think I borrowed it from you.
Right. Yes, I believe you did.
But yeah, so that, like, those two, even if they might not be exactly the same. In fact, The Little Prince is not exactly the same. It takes a story which is just the story of The Little Prince, and then it extrapolates from that of, so who would be the person that met The Little Prince? Like, what is his life? What is it like now? And seeing it through other eyes. I think that is a wonderful way to go. And I know there's not too many stories or whatever that you can actually do that with, but it was so wonderfully done that I would be remiss not to mention it. But yeah, I think, and for anyone that remembers, those two are the only ones that I've given a perfect score to. So,
yes, yep, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, that was previously adapted. Wasn't that it was a live action, wasn't it? Or
I believe so.
Yeah, I know we looked into it at the time, but yeah, yeah, that's a good one. I want to I'm going to go back to my best here again, and then I'll get a couple from the worst, and you'll see why, because that'll make sense. The next one I am going to go with is The Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, good film.
Yes, fantastic film. 1991, directed by Jonathan Demme, rest in peace, one of the best filmmakers ever, based on the novel by Thomas Harris. Read this book way before I should have read this book. Sorry, Mom. And it is just one of those that it actually softens the characters a bit and gives a little more humanity and like empathy towards some of the awfulness in there, where the novel is a little more black and white, right. I guess you could say, as far as just the pure evil. But just a fantastic job of bringing this story to screen. And of course, iconic roles. This is one of, this movie got the big five at the Oscars, which, that's, picture, director, actor, actress, writing. Yeah. Really tough to get all those. Not saying the Oscars are some metric to live by, but even so, having all of those does say a little something about it. Yeah. It is eerie, spooky. It will fuck you up. It's a great movie based on a great book. And once again, of course, I'm sure most of our listeners are familiar, but if for some reason that you missed this, check them out both. If you're a reader, if you're just into the films, definitely revisit the movie or watch it again, or watch it, for the first time. Yeah. Utterly superb. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And this was also a film that I had seen one before, and then when I went to university to do film studies, it was used as a bit of a case study in one of my modules, and we watched it, and then we also specifically watched the scene when Hannibal is talking to Clarice about the lambs. And so we watched it all the way through, and then the teacher said, "So, what's the first sound in this scene? Like, after he starts talking, when is the first sound you hear?" And everyone's saying like, "Oh no, it's when they burst in at the end to take him away." It's like, nope, that's not it. It's when he's talking specifically to her and getting her to talk out about the sheep. Like you start hearing the wind just very slowly in the background, like just coming in, and it's just such a fantastic little piece of audio and engineering in this film, which is just,
yeah. Demi was a supremely talented filmmaker. Yeah. All right. So what do you got?
What do you think? Should I go with adaptations I like, or should I delve into ones that I didn't?
Hey, dealer's choice. I'm heading to the negative next time around, so...
All right. Well, I'll do one more that I like then, since my list is a little longer, and then I will join you after yours.
Okay.
So the next one that I have is actually the third Harry Potter film. Now,
is that Azkaban? No, wait, no, what is that?
That is, yes, Prisoner of Azkaban.
Hey, oh my god. At least Harry Potter knowledge guy out there actually got that right. That's
and there's probably a reason why you got that right, because...
Probably just from osmosis from hanging around you.
Yeah, well, there's that, but also it's generally acknowledged as the best in terms of adaptation of the lot. Obviously, the first one, you had a whole bunch of new actors, and so like they're starting to find themselves in the film, as it were. So there's that, and then the later films, because the books were longer, they had to cut more, and so like people were starting to be like, well, why did you cut this, particularly, and so on and so forth. But The Prisoner of Azkaban is, on most accounts, like a really solid adaptation. They didn't really cut too much out, and the things that they did take out weren't really necessary. They were just good flavor in the books, so it was very, very well done, and I would say it is one of the best films in that franchise, the other one being The Half-Blood Prince, again, in my opinion.
I wish I had more to add to that, but yes, I am very lacking in my HP knowledge. So
yes, I mean, if you're not if you're not a Harry Potter fan, then no matter what I say here, it's not going to sway you in any way. It just simply in terms of adaptations and stuff like that, I would say a very good adaptation is the third film.
All right, I do recall liking that one. I mean, I've liked plenty of them, but I don't know. It's been so long. So.
And of course, the introduction of Gary Oldman.
Yes, of course.
Serious,
that has to count for something. All right, if not everything.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to move along to my first and my worst, which is related to my last pick. Okay. That would be 2001's Hannibal, directed by Ridley Scott, based on the novel by Thomas Harris. So I also read this book, of course. Had it in hardback, and I don't know. I read it in maybe freshman year, or no, I would have been. Yeah, so it's 2000. I don't know. I read it when I read it. Who cares? No one, including me. The book, I mean, to be fair, isn't excellent. Yeah. It's good. It's a decent piece of writing. It's nowhere near on the scale of Red Dragon or Silence of the Lambs, but it is a bit bonkers, and the film just escalates that to just absurd levels. It's just apeshit bananas, and at times incomprehensible, and just characterization is all over the place. It's a mess, I think, for the most part. I don't know. There are people that really like this movie, so I'm sure a lot of them if they're out there yelling at me. It's got a pretty damn nice cast. I mean, Hopkins, of course, is back. You got Ray Liotta and Julianne Moore in there. Gary Oldman, the aforementioned. It just did not fly for me. It just went off the rails and kind of went into absurdity territory. So that one, I don't know, really missed the mark, and I just thought it was a nice counterpiece to Silence of the Lambs, so I included it.
No,
did you see any of that at all, or them eating their own brains? Spoiler.
Yes, I believe.
Which is from the book, but
yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think I've seen the last 20 minutes of Hannibal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that does include that particular scene that you're referring to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember seeing that and going like, all right, sure. Like,
yep.
why not run with this? Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and it's so long too. It's like for that kind of thrill is oh well.
Yeah.
Enough about that. Yeah. What do you have?
All right. Well, I will actually say, okay. Now this one is a little bit interesting because in terms of whether or not I actually enjoyed or didn't mind seeing it, like I didn't mind it. Like, I didn't think it was terrible. However, they took a relatively short book, in fact, shorter than any of the books outside it that had also been made into a film.
Oh my gosh, is this your best? Is this one of your best?
This
is worst.
This is
okay.
For, like,
I think we might have. If we're playing the match game, I'm thinking we might have a match. But okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so they took this relatively short book and stretched it into 3 films.
Yes, they did.
Which is not the way you should go.
No, it isn't.
And that would be The Hobbit.
The Hobbit. Ding, ding, ding.
Yes, and as I said, I didn't mind the films. I didn't think they were as good as Lord of the Rings, but I didn't mind watching them. I enjoyed bits of them, but in terms of taking just this little book and turning it into something on the screen, you didn't need, what was it in the end, like 7 hours of, of film.
It's insane. It's sheer insanity. the cash grab this was.
Yeah, and I understand that they were trying to say, like, well, obviously Lord of the Rings was an epic, and we can make.
Well, yeah, Lord of the Rings was like 1,200 pages, whatever. Whatever edition you have, But it was something you could. It was 3 distinct bodies of work for 3 distinct films.
Yeah, and I believe half of the reason that this got made into 3 films was, we want more from these characters that we already know. Mm-hmm. So let's bring these people in. And the big sticking point for a lot of people, if I'm remembering correctly, Legolas isn't in The Hobbit, but he is in the films. So I'm not quite. They clearly were just like, oh, you liked Orlando Bloom in Lord of the Rings? He's back. Yay! Come see it. It shouldn't work that way.
No, it's. I read one little online blurb saying this. It's almost up there with the Star Wars prequels as far as just utter disappointment.
Yeah.
In relation to the universe it's a part of. Yeah. If you couldn't guess, this is also in my worst list. I have not even finished all of the films. I have not seen the completion of all of the films. I've seen parts of all of them,
right.
But I have zero interest in putting myself through that. For what, as you said, is the shortest book of, I believe, the Middle Earth, anything to do with Middle Earth.
Yeah.
I know it's not part of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, of course, that's separate, but to make this into, like you said, the length of these films, it's just so tedious and boring for stretches.
Yeah.
There was no need for this. Absolutely no need. To get, quote unquote, most of the gang back together. I mean, yeah, I know. Like, hey, I was excited when, hey, look, Peter Jackson's going to do this. Because there was talks where that wasn't going to happen. He was just going to produce whatever. But it's just, oh my God, one film or maybe two tops.
Yeah,
could have been handled so much better. 2 hour 40-minute movies would have been much more preferable than just three like 2 hour 40-minute movies, whatever they are.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. When it comes to this sort of thing, like I understand that what they were trying to do, because obviously in Lord of the Rings, the books are so huge. They had to cut out so much to make them into the film. So I think this was going the other way. Oh, well, we don't want to cut anything out. In fact, we're adding. Like, just make this as long as we can. It just, don't do that.
I'd say, unless you're a super diehard Tolkien fan,
like Stephen
I mean, or you're a completionist, there's really no need to see these if you didn't hurry out and already see them. So if you held off, it's probably for a good reason. So I'm going to perfectly segue that back into the best column and say the Lord of the Rings trilogy as one of the best film adaptations of novels.
All right.
I know you and Kevin Smith have your views on these.
No. But I do enjoy the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I can see both sides. Like, it's a big epic story. Like, they definitely trimmed the things that weren't 100% necessary.
But R.I.P. to my Tom Bombadil people. I know. Yeah. We haven't forgotten, nor will we ever forget.
Yes, you haven't forgotten that character that is around for just over one chapter who adds nothing to the story.
That's true. All right. So I don't care. They could have put him in then, right?
Yes. I mean,
okay.
I'll bet you anything. If it was made after The Hobbit, he would have been in there for like an hour.
Right, he would have been. Yeah. All right. So yes, I read these books probably not as early as I should have, but I don't know. It was always one of those things, and I don't think I'd ever seen like the much acclaimed animated version, that had been around for years at that point. But it's one of those things that you wonder, like, it had to have been made when it was made. That to bring this grand story to the screen, the technology had to be there, and in 1999, it was there, and so. I don't know, of course, like I said, based on all Tolkien's, started writing this in the trenches of World War I. People know all the stories, but to see that put on a big screen and to be there for every like premiere at Christmas, it was such a huge thing, and I thought it was carried out just beautifully. There are legitimate critiques, overlong, slow. Slow parts was a lot of things I said about The Hobbit.
Yeah.
So contradictory, of course, but
well, I mean,
the characters are so rich in this, and I think from that first film, you're rooting for everyone. I don't know, it's just such a heartwarming story, and that it's just very simple: good versus evil. Get this ring from point A to point B, and let's go. And let's walk a whole lot, and we'll get there.
I think you kind of touched on, even though there are bits in it that are slow or lengthy, or however you want to word it, because of the characters. Like, there's so many characters, but they're all very different, and they all get their own moment and their own development. Mm-hmm. So even the slow bits are fun to watch.
Some of the best action sequences I still have seen, and it's been 17, 18 years. The battle at Helm's Deep, I don't have the words for it. I just love that so much. It's gorgeous. It's terrifying. It's just wonderfully cinematic and heroic. And I don't know. It's fantastic. I think I still, to this day, like, I know a lot of people say Return of the King is the best one, but they're the best one out there. But, it does have the super long ending there. But the Two Towers, I don't know. I think that film is just near perfection.
It is
I
very
mean,
good.
for its adaptation, not goes against everything else, but it is so damn good.
Yeah.
And all right, I've bored people with talking about Lord of the Rings. So
No, yeah. I was going to
so
say
save me here, Paul.
well, the only thing I had to add as well was like, I remember when I first read Lord of the Rings, and it was I don't remember the exact year, but it was a year that myself and my family we went to France for a holiday. We went to what are called Euro camps there, which are basically giant sites. Generally, there's a pool and some other stuff, but like giant sites where there's a shitload of what over here would be called double wide trailers, and like there's just loads of these. And so you go there, it's relatively inexpensive, and you stay there for a week or two, whatever. And I didn't really want to do anything, so I read all three books during the one holiday. Okay, I just sat down and just read, and in fact I was even told when I was talking to one of my friends beforehand. I said I'm going to do this, and the only thing he told me was skip Tom Bombadil. So
that is not a friend. Okay, so
I didn't actually skip it, but like that was what he said.
No, he doesn't have your best interest. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I know I said both of my lists are a good thing, but another terrible adaptation. Like I genuinely don't know how this ended up being released. It was that bad, and it is a kids' film. But I don't think that excuses it in the slightest.
Oh boy,
it's really terrible. And
I'm afraid we might have a match again, but we'll see. Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess the question I would need to ask then is: it a Dr. Seuss film?
Yes, it is.
Would it be The Cat in the Hat, by any chance?
Yes, and damn you for stealing my thunder. That was like my number one.
I genuinely don't know what the hell happened. Like, I watched this when obviously I watched this when I was older than the target audience.
Well, I don't know who the target audience was for this movie.
Yeah, but I watched
Goldfish were the target audience for this movie.
Yeah, I watched it specifically because I like Mike Myers. And I was like, well, you know, maybe it'll be all right. I'll give it a go. You know, I'm all for watching quote unquote kids film because generally they're well made enough that there's stuff for everyone. And I got The Cat in the Hat.
Yeah,
it's terrible. It's awful.
I know nothing other than that it's terrible. I don't recall one. I couldn't tell you one line out of the movie. I couldn't tell you one thing that happens. I just know I sat there in my seat and gritted my teeth for whatever the runtime was, and just got angry and upset and just completely furious about how my time was being wasted. I went. It wasn't really a double date. It was just a friend group, just two guys and two girls. But the girls got to pick the movie, and it was down to two choices: The Cat in the Hat or Elf. And we wanted to see Elf, and guess what? We saw, of course. Not that Elf is the be-all, end-all, but I think arguably a much better movie.
Yeah.
I think even Will Ferrell haters could say a much better movie than Cat in the Hat.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Elf, and I would rather watch that than The Cat in the
Hat. Yeah, so I was pissy about that. I was reading online, like, there's a reason you don't make Dr. Seuss movies, or Dr. Seuss, sorry, I misspoke, Dr. Seuss books into movies because they shouldn't be made into movies. They're meant to exist in that short form medium. So yes, of course, this was on my horse as well. I had it tied, or I had it slash Cat in the Hat slash How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Is that what it was released as
Dr.
over here?
Dr. Seuss is How the Grinch. I thought it was just How the Grinch. I didn't think there was Dr. Seuss. I thought that was in front of the Dr. Seuss is in front of the animated short, I think.
Yeah, because at the very least, all I can tell you is in England it was just known as The Grinch. That's
okay. So in the States it was How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Okay. And the perfect like 27-minute whatever it is runtime animated short I think was Dr. Seuss Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas,
Yeah.
which is just as long as that story needed to be. Don't need to know the backstory of the Grinch and all that. I mean, yes, you can say Jim Carrey's performance is pretty good for this character, and that there are a lot of nice visuals, but there was no need for this movie to be that length, to have the rhyming pattern that works in Dr. Seuss's world on the page, but does not work when you bring it to screen.
Yeah, and only brought in every now and again.
Yeah, it just feels awkward, and it's uncomfortable, and it's just put on. Yeah. So the less said about this, the less time spent on it, the better. Stop making Dr. Seuss books into movies. Although I will go see One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish, if that happens. But other than that,
I think Quentin Tarantino's on to direct that one. So
thank you. Finally. All right. Bluefish is going down, motherfucker. All right.
The only thing I will add to this is I definitely need to somehow convince my wife to come on then, because The Grinch is her favorite Christmas film of all time. So,
I hope she's only seen one Christmas film. That's the only way that's excusable.
It's very closely followed up by The Muppets Christmas Carol. So
all right. Well, let's. Okay. So wait, does that count as my turn now, or is it still my turn since we kind of shared that one?
Sure.
Okay, sure. I'm going to take it. All right, so I'm going to move back into the best column.
Okay.
I am going with a film directed by David Fincher, 1999. That would be Fight Club.
I had that on my list as well. I have not read the source material for this one.
Ooh, I will lend it to you.
Okay. I will happily take it.
Yeah. Even if you listen to the DVD, Blu-ray, whatever commentary with Fincher and Polnick, he is just on board for this adaptation, which is really nice to hear an author, be on board for that and say, like, I understand some things had to be streamlined. It's such, Polnick is one of my favorite modern writers, and he just comes from a place of honesty and kind of gutsy realism and doesn't pull punches. Sorry, bad pun here. Did not intend that. But it's really raw and honest, and that's really what I love about his writing. It's graphic, it's disturbing, but it always feels real to me. And this world of a generation that really has no great cause, dealing with the emasculation of men and nihilism, and it was so beautifully handled and such a cinematic gem. My sister, shout out to my older sister Michelle, had recommended this movie to me, and I had seen the trailer at the time. I think, I was 17 years old. I'm like, I have no interest in watching a movie with Brad Pitt taking his shirt off and, bare knuckle boxing later. Yeah. Okay, so yes, I would enjoy Snatch, where he does just that as well. But
you read my mind, sir.
What's that?
You read my mind.
Yep. So yes, I did. Yeah. So of course that happened, but of course that's not what this movie is. It's so much more. There's nothing I can say. Either you know and love this film, or it's just completely not in your wheelhouse. So there's no more reason to keep on talking. But it's such a well put together film from the book. If you read the book, I think I'm so happy I read it first and then watched it. I still think there's value to reading it after. But the score, by the Dust Brothers and stuff, everything. The opening credits, it's just one of those films I can watch endlessly. So
I definitely agree, and I am so lucky that nobody really talked with me about the film before I saw it, because all aspects of it without trying to really go at all in depth. All aspects of it are handled so well and so smoothly that it really is so much fun to watch, even when you know everything that's going on there. So
yeah, it's just a treat. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
I am Robert Paulson. I am Jack's inflated ego. All right. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I asked my wife if she had any, and she mentioned one that I hadn't thought of, but upon reflection, and I'm actually now reading the book to my daughter very slowly. Maybe half a chapter at a time because she tends to just try and crawl away. But yeah, I'm getting through it. One that like I said, I didn't think about until she said it, and I was like, you know what? Actually, it is very well done, and it's Matilda.
Okay.
Yeah. For those of you that either don't remember or haven't seen it or anything like that, Danny DeVito is the director. He's also Matilda's father and the narrator. It's got Mara Wilson as Matilda in the 5-year bracket that she really did acting before she gave it up. It's just got some great parts in it. The woman whose name I am blanking on right now, but the one that plays the Trunchbull, she also plays Aunt Marge in the
Pam Ferris film.
Yeah, that's it, Pam Ferris. Yeah, she is phenomenal as the Trunchbull. And again, it's one of those things where they've made some changes from the book, but only insofar as to make it work better as a film version of the book. Mm-hmm. So there's one bit where there's a newt that is placed in a thing of water by one of the students. In the book, she does it and no one else knows about it. In the film, it's like all the kids are gathered around like, oh, it's a newt. Like, oh, I think this would be fun. She plots it in. Like, so yeah, it's just one of those things where it was just a relatively small change that I'm sure purists are like, well, that's not how it was in the book. It works better in a film format to have it that way around. So,
and I have not read nor seen either of these. So
really, okay. I would even for a man of your age, I would recommend seeing Matilda because it is just. It is somewhat cutesy because it is a Roald Dahl film, but some really good acting in it and just a relatively fun story.
Okay, hour 38. I can be into it for an hour and 38.
And also a bit of a cameo from Pee Wee Herman himself.
I see that as FBI agent.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. All right.
What would be next on your list then?
Well, I'm going to switch back over to worst.
Okay.
I think, have we mentioned Stephen King? I don't know if we have. Okay.
We haven't really mentioned that, no.
Okay. So, this would be Dreamcatcher.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that? This is 2003.
I am familiar with it, and I will say I enjoyed the film when I saw it, but again, haven't read the original novel.
The film is so bad. to humbly disagree with you.
Nope, that's fine. I know I'm in the minority there.
God awful. And if you would look at the screenplay writers for this, you would think, how is that possible? Written by William Goldman and Lawrence Kasdan. So, two of the best. I mean, William Goldman, come on, The Princess Bride, Butch Cassidy. So these are two. I mean, Lawrence Kasdan, all the Star Wars and Raiders. He's worked with Lucas for a long time. So these are very talented, very capable writers. You got Morgan Freeman in this. On paper, this seems like it should be freaking fantastic. It is a shit show from the beginning. And to be fair, the book is a lesser shit show. This was written when, correct me if I'm wrong, corrections department out there, but this was written while Stephen King was hopped up on some pretty serious painkillers after nearly being killed by a van.
Sounds about right.
That accident, yeah. So he was, for the most part, feverish. I don't know if all of the things he was taking were prescription. I can't, that is speculation. I cannot say. So not laying any accusations there, but it certainly reads like there was something else at play there. It is just bonkers beyond bonkers. I do remember sort of enjoying the book. It's entertaining. It's a different experience. Granted, you're reading the book, and it's entertainment. It's cheap, fun beach reading, like Stephen King usually is. And not to say that he hasn't written some really poignant and kind of important stuff, but for the most part, that's what you're getting with him. Just the play-by-play thrills and of that kind of horror writer. But the movie is just silly. It's campy when it shouldn't be. The jokes don't work. They try to inject way too much humor into scenes that should be serious. The tone is it just makes the tone all lopsided and wonky. Yeah. You never know where it's going or why. It just does not hold together in the slightest. And I mean, you got shit aliens, essentially. Okay, there's shit. Do I need to go on? So, I'm sorry, Damian Lewis. You're a great actor, but oh my god, I hope you got paid well for this. As Morgan Freeman. All right. Yeah, and screw you, Jason Lee. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Over to you, Paul.
All right. Well, how about I go into one of my good ones then, good adaptations here. I think I'm gonna mention one that it technically could be seen as a film. It's definitely feature length, and it's a couple of things because I consider it the realm rather than the individual film itself. And that is the live-action Discworld adaptations that they've made.
What is it? Discworld?
Discworld, yes. That would be the Terry Pratchett books, and they made...
Not familiar.
I'm not too surprised. I actually don't know if they aired over here being in America, for those unsure. They definitely aired in England. They were on Sky One, and I'm fairly certain they were on the terrestrial television channels as well at some point. But they are so well done. That you've got they did Going Postal was one, The Hogfather was another one. Those are the only two that are popping out right now, but I know they made more than that. But yeah, they took the essence of the books and they really made the living, breathing world on TV. Like, they're each adapted into 2-hour-ish long episodes. So, a full feature, as it were, if it's the whole thing. Charles Dance is the patrician, who is a kind of dictator of the biggest city in the Discworld, and you can't help but enjoy seeing him on screen. And I can't really go too far into it without just explaining the Discworld, which will take way too long for what we're doing right here.
Okay, fair.
But I cannot recommend enough, even if you haven't read any of the Discworld books, which I imagine you have not being familiar with the term.
Nope.
I would recommend looking at least one of them up, and be it either The Hogfather or Going Postal, because both of them are brilliant. And if you're not into it in the first 20 minutes, then the Discworld series is not for you. That's how well this adaptation is. If you don't get it in the film version, you're not going to get the book. So it really is sort of, they coexist brilliantly. So so there's that.
All right. I'm not, sorry I was quite there, but I had nothing to add, being zero familiarity with that. So, okay. I'm going to switch over once again to one of my best, and I tried to make these make a little bit of sense, going away from Dreamcatcher and into a very good, albeit perhaps excellent adaptation of a Stephen King story. That would be The Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Yep. Based on the short story Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. Mm-hmm. It's in one of his, I'm blanking on what he's written, so many of those collections of short stories. I'm forgetting which one it's in right now, so apologies there. But it's in one of those, obviously, so much more to expand on than what was in that short story. But this is just going to be lightning round, because what can I say about this that hasn't been said? You either think this is one of the greatest movies of all time, or you're just a horrible horrible person. So that's really all there is to it.
Yeah.
That's all there is to say.
Yeah, I almost didn't. I almost didn't put it on my list just because it was like, of course, I like.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be.
Redemption.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be obvious, but I didn't want to be obtuse and leave it out.
Exactly. All right.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Back over to you.
All right.
Some lightning round here.
Yeah. Well, if we're going lightning round, then I will quickly go over.
I think it's probably time to hit lightning round. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. In that case, I will put down 2 that are based on graphic novels that I have since read, and that would be Sin City and The Road to Perdition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I wanted to put Sin City down, but I have not read the source material, so I did not.
Yeah, that was something that I eventually became friends with someone who had the source material, so I was able to read it that way. And The Road to Perdition, yeah, I ended up reading that too.
Well covered on this podcast.
Yeah, both of those were films that the moment I saw them, I bought into Tom Hanks's gangster character.
Beautiful. Go ahead.
Such a brilliant film. There's a lot I could go into on that, and then of course,
Sorry, I just wanted to say it's such a beautiful score too. And that is it. Thomas Newman that's in that. Is that his?
I think so.
I got to check it out. Sorry, I'm not. Yeah, but go ahead.
You check that out, and the other one that I was going to say is that.
Thomas Newman.
Like Sin City. Again, anyone that's been listening to this podcast knows how much visuals count for me, and Sin City is just beautiful. And it really is one of the first times I'd ever seen something that is so clearly the graphic novel just on screen. That really is what it is. So they got the look perfectly. So yeah.
All right. Excellent. I'm going to go with worst here. Really quick, knock this out. Dukes of Hazzard.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. So a couple points here. Yes, I will admit I watched this show as a child, but I was not a woke child. I apologize. It's an extremely bigoted, racist, misogynistic show. If you're unfamiliar. No reason this ever needed to be adapted into a movie. Certainly not in 2005. Certainly not with Jessica Simpson and Johnny Knoxville. With Simpson having the tie-in music video. It's just wall-to-wall garbage. And I'm moving on.
Okay.
Sorry if you disagree, but
no, I've seen that film exactly once.
I'm just saying to anyone,
and I felt no need to go back to that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, yeah. Do you have any more? I got a couple more here.
I have a couple more that I mentioned.
And then I have, some Twitter answers, I'm sure you do too.
Yes, well, I've actually now bought this, and I've rewatched it, and I've sort of more come around to it. And we actually covered this on the podcast. It is Ender's Game.
Okay. As your best or worst?
As in my favorites for this one, because
really,
obviously we reviewed it, and you had previously read Ender's Game, but a while ago, and then I had very recently read it and seriously gotten into that world because I stand by that brilliant series of books. And when I saw the film, I was seeing it through the eyes of very much someone who's like, well, that wasn't in it. They've changed that. This is a little different. Like, that's how I was going into it. Mm. And then about a year later, I started thinking, I kind of want to rewatch this. I feel like it's been long enough now. I want to come back to it with slightly fresher eyes. And so I rewatched it, and thinking about it purely as them taking the story and putting it onto the screen rather than, they didn't make it exactly the same. I've really come around on it, and I really enjoy it, and I've told people that they should see it. It's not something I would have done back when we reviewed it. So please go check that out if you haven't.
Okay, so I'm a little different opinion on that, but trying to wrap this up here. I have, I know this doesn't really belong on this list, but one of my best or favorites film adaptations would be God, I feel stupid saying it. Jurassic Park. There it is. I know it's wrong. So no, there's nothing wrong with liking that movie. Don't get me wrong there, but the 12-year-old that will always reside within me could not leave this film off the list. Of course, I was a big Michael Crichton fan as a kid. It's just good time reading there. But I mean, of course it's not a perfect adaptation. There's a lot of things that were cut out, a lot of things different. One of the, biggest things, of course, being Ian Malcolm's character arc, or non-arc, as it were, book spoilers. But it's just, it's Jurassic Park. I had to put it on. So, yep, I'm just trying to make it quick. So I had, one more on the bad. Do you have, anything else?
I don't believe, out of right now, I know that tomorrow I'm going to come up with this is
one of those things that it's one of those divisive issues that how could you leave this off? How could you leave that one off? But we thought of what we thought of at the time.
I actually have one that I can kind of mention because it is very divisive, as it were, and it is both Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And the reason for that is that, as with pretty much everyone else, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which is a film mostly about Charlie, is seen as the better of the two by everybody except Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl hated that film, and he said it was nothing like the book, which is actually kind of true. It really doesn't feel like the book if you've ever read it. However, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is about Willy Wonka, is definitely a bad film, but it is a better adaptation. So I don't know how you want to end up viewing it, but it's a very weird realm.
Well, people watch Gene Wilder. There's no question here. Watch Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
End of story. Okay, there's no discussion to be had.
Yeah, and in fact, I think if Gene Wilder had been able to time travel from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and be Willy Wonka in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it would have been better. I think that would have saved it.
I don't know. Yeah. It's pretty much anything couldn't hurt that film. So, okay. I had one more on my worst, and then unless you have anything else, I want to get into a couple of responses, and then tie a bow on this. Yeah.
Tell you what, you give yours. I've got just two kind of honorable mentions, as it were, and then we'll get into the
okay. Yeah. So lightning round here is trying to keep it going here, and not to bore everyone. Myself, I'm speaking, not you. I'm speaking for myself. But I have Doom / any video game adaptation. So I think that pretty much speaks for itself.
Yes.
I don't know that it's possible to make a good movie from a video game. I mean, of course, the inherent issue is you're taking the playability and I mean, depending on what type of game it is, but the choices of the player in directing the narrative.
Yeah.
And yes, a lot of the video games have a set narrative and they have to go through it, but it's a completely different experience. It's not like a book where you're the bystander, and you are just taking in this information. You are partaking, and then you remove that element and you just watch someone. I mean, okay, I guess now I'm sounding old. A lot of the younger generation enjoys watching people play video games. I don't understand it, but it's a thing. For me, I think that's about as boring as watching golf on television, but it's right up there with poker and golf and bowling on TV. But
I will jump in very quickly there just to say, I enjoy watching some people doing that, and that is because I find that the people doing it are adding their own commentary. Yeah, and I enjoy the commentary aspect of it. Well,
yeah, but I have no desire to watch you scroll through your RPG menu for 12 minutes.
That's a little
getting your best armor set on and whatever, Yeah.
So the ones that I watch, they very edit it down, so you are only seeing the plot points, or if they go on talking about something.
I mean, I suppose I could say Resident Evil isn't completely unwatchable. That might have been the closest to a decent adaptation of a video game.
Well,
The
it's
first
not
one.
a
Any of the
horrible
subsequent ones.
It's
nah.
not a horrible film, but it's not really a good adaptation of any of the Resident Evil games. So yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was all I had. Yeah. I don't have any honorable mentions.
Well, the only two that I had sort of honorable mention style are they're actually like the sort of TV or long form television, which might give away one of them.
Can I take it? Can I take a stab at what one of them is?
Yeah, give it a go.
Series of unfortunate events.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
I would have been remiss if I didn't mention that. Yeah, and that would be the Netflix one. I didn't
check out our episode on that.
Yes,
a few months back.
I didn't mind the Jim Carrey one, but yeah, definitely the Netflix one knocked it out of the park. And then one thing that I hope in some form we end up talking about either on this podcast or another, and that would be Westworld.
Oh, we will talk about Westworld at some point.
We will.
Like you said, on this podcast or another or both.
Exactly.
And I know of at least one guest or two that we will need to have on for that. So
yes.
Okay.
All right, and that is it in terms of
what did Twitter return back?
Twitter,
and then I have someone else as well. So go ahead.
All right, yeah, Twitter returned back exactly one person.
Oh, hey, thank you, Twitter.
Yes, and that would be the I Seen That podcast, and they returned a question, but I believe that question is their suggestion, and that would be, does Akira count? And I responded, yes, it does. And again, obviously I'm a Ghost in the Shell fan. Akira, definitely one of these seminal animes that made it to the Western world and really introduced that to especially America, but obviously Europe as well. It really started to be like, oh, this is what's coming out of this stuff? Oh, that's a really cool art form. And obviously now it's seriously taken off, but yes, very good suggestion from the
okay, and I knew you would be on board for that one. So
yes,
unfamiliar, I know, but yep.
That's fine. We all have our blind spots.
Exactly. So I have just a few to mention from a good friend of the pod, Colleen Griffin. Mm-hmm. Check her out on SRC. She said that The Hunger Games and Lord of the Rings are pretty solid adaptations. Yeah. Children of Men, the book by P.D. James, and then directed by, I'm always afraid I say this wrong, I'm sure I do, Alfonso Cuarón.
I believe that is correct.
Cuarón, okay, yeah. She said that actually improved on the source material.
Okay.
I have not read the book, so I cannot agree with that. But
I never finished that one.
Yeah. She said Interview with a Vampire was meh as far as an adaptation. Every SNL movie that isn't Wayne's World was awful or bad. And I might say Wayne's World 2. I don't know. It's not a good movie, but I don't know. I still like it. And then my favorite here, Transformers can eat a dick. Direct quote. So thank you, Colleen, for those contributions.
Yes. I mean, they make money, but that's not necessarily a good thing.
No. Not for the people that grew up with those and had Michael Bay ruin their childhood not once but twice. Thank you, Ninja Turtles.
Yes, I am going to assume that she is not referring to the cartoon series, but
no, I think ruining the cartoon series. Yes, yeah, perhaps. All right, well, I'm spent. You got anything to add there?
No, I do not. I think we should definitely let the good people go at this point.
I believe so. I believe that's the honorable thing to do here. So, we would love to hear your favorite, least favorite adaptations. Where we dead wrong? Where we dead right? Let's hear it all. So,
and also if anyone ever wants to come on and discuss what makes a good adaptation or what makes a bad anything like that, just get a hold of us. We'll have you on. Seriously, we love talking about this stuff, so we will work it out.
And oddly enough, I can't believe we did not mention adaptation.
Yes.
Based on the Organ Thief.
There's probably a reason we didn't bring that up.
But now we have.
Yes, so there you go.
All right. And thanks, Nicolas Cage.
Exactly. And with all that being said, I've been Paul.
I've been Brian.
See you folks.
Bye.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Hang on a minute, lads. I've got a great idea.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.